Few even mention the most basic things, but they really are the most important. Breathing affects our mental state even more strongly than it affects our body. I mean, stop and think about that. There are two opposite ways to approach breathing, and it's really important to learn both of them. Again, you need both legs to walk, right? The first way is just to observe your breathing without trying to change anything. The best way to stress yourself out even more when you're already upset is to try to make yourself relax, right? You need a lot of practice to use tricks like that well, and they aren't needed. Just closing your eyes and tuning into your body will reset most emotional upsets before they get out of hand. Just watch and feel your breathing, nothing more. Your breath probably will start shifting on its own as you start paying attention, and that's okay. Don't try to stop it thinking you must be screwing something up. Just let whatever happens happen. The second approach, of course, is to use exercises to rediscover different patterns of breathing. They are really easy to misuse, though. It is important to understand that the point is not to memorize the right instructions. Most of us have been told by people who mean very well that, the secret is just to develop good habits, right? But that's actually bad instructions if you stop to think about it. Anything you just endlessly and mindlessly do on repeat is going to end up causing problems in a changing system. You don't want to just memorize the right instructions. You just want to use them long enough to learn a new trick. That's a really wonderful quote. Chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. Anything we do the memorizing way is going to have long-term bad effects on the body because it's always changing, and you're supposed to be listening to what it wants, not telling it what to want. But when you've learned bad habits, your body's already given up on getting you to try to fix them. So it has to be reminded of what it prefers, and that exercises can help with in the short term. There are two big problems that most people learn to automatically copy just from hanging out around other people who are stressed out, right? First is which body parts should be moving. Your belly should be going out when you breathe in. When we do chest breathing, when we breathe in, our chest goes out, but our belly kind of stays in the same place. Put your hand on your belly and your chest just to see what's happening, right? But, if your chest goes out and your belly doesn't really move, when you breathe out, it does kind of push your belly out. Okay, you're supposed to be having your belly go out when you breathe in. That means you're filling your lungs all the way. I mean, can't you can even hear that in the way I was talking, right? So try both to see which one you normally do. And also, stop to think about what you're doing with your mouth and your nose, because it matters which one you use. Nose breathing actually gets you 10 to 20% more oxygen, and it engages the calming tricks of your body, while mouth breathing engages the fight or flight reflex, quite the opposite. However, trauma recovery has noticed that breathing out with your mouth when you're really stressed out does help you release tension faster. You still want to do in with the nose, but if you do out with your mouth, it's a little more effective when you're in a high stress situation. The second bad idea that we tend to automatically copy is the timing of our breath. Man, timing really is everything. Spending more time on the in than the out allows all the toxic crap in the air that you breathe in to stay in your lungs. Heavy things sink, right? Your body does this to give you extra energy when you're under stress, and this becomes a big problem when we live in stress. It goes hand in hand with the chest breathing. We only move the top of our lungs, and we don't even bother trying to empty them. In a toxic world, this is the primary cause of all the breathing problems. A word of caution, though, because, breathing is pretty automatic, right? I mean, if we couldn't do that while we sleep, we'd die. Most people don't even notice trouble when there is trouble. And that makes it really easy to be surprised by how badly things can go wrong when you try to force change. So, just remember, baby steps work better. Every correction is an overcorrection. But eventually, we get there. A rocket ship to the moon really is off course 99% of the time. And that's when it succeeds in getting there. So, trying to force a longer count can make you feel like you can't breathe, and it really does not do any good. This is, I think, why breath work isn't more popular already. The only people talking about it offer a starting place that beginners really can't handle without guidance. So, here's the beginner version of what you're going to see online, starting with the most important part: how to relax. It's really simple. You want to breathe out longer than you breathe in. I remember when I tried to do this for the first time. I tried to use the big people charts. Oh, that did not go well. There was a moment when I felt like I just wasn't even going to be able to start breathing again. And it felt kind of impossible to do. It was like, how can you breathe out for longer? It was extremely stressful. Okay, this is a very helpful chart. Um, uh, don't start with that 4 and 8 business, or you're gonna choke. If you're a beginner, even if you're in good shape, use the healthy section on the bottom rather than those online charts in the beginning, right? So, just to give you an idea, there is a pattern to this chart that's pretty simple. The steps 1, 2, and 3 are basically a difference in how long you hold things, right? The holding takes a little more practice. You start with a difference between the in and the out. You don't try to hold anything in the beginning. Don't even worry about it. Just, like if you're in really bad shape, if you're in poorly, if you're asthmatic, you've got all, whatever respiratory issues you've got, they tend to be, it's like you're almost in a state of hyperventilating all the time just to be able to get enough oxygen. It's like, it's hard to maintain, right? So the first thing you try to do is just slow it down to going a little bit more out than you go in. If you have an in, just slow it a little bit. That's all you have to do. Okay? Take this one step at a time, baby steps. So, if you want, pause the video so you can look at the numbers a little more. I always I like to pause charts because they take some looking at to really understand well, right? So this then is the one to adapt the rest of the online charts, or the rest of the stuff in the online charts for beginners. Um, Maintaining your breath, you just do your breath equal in and equal out. That's the bottom line. Energizing is just not something you should be messing with at all. It's really not for beginners. It's basically hyperventilating, and it's very easy to feel stuck in, like that story I was telling about when I first tried the big boy 4-8 business. The whole problem is that we're already doing this a little bit all the time with the energizing breathing, where it's more of an in than an out. And we've got to learn to stop doing that. Unlearning that is the whole reason you're here. So, if you have a problem with hyperventilating, don't even try it, okay? But, if you don't really have a problem, try it just to remind yourself of what I'm talking about. You're going to feel the difference immediately. So yeah, once you can handle the beginner stuff easily, then the online charts can impress you. I'm not going to even waste any time with this right now. When you get along to that, you can come and pause the video here, right? And there's definitely more to play with than timing. Things like different kinds of noises, or whether you block one nostril and which one, makes a huge difference. They all have special effects. In fact, there is so much to play with that it's easy to forget that breathing affects your mind even more powerfully than your body. So when I was Googling this stuff, this quote is what came up the most for this sort of stuff, right? Shallow breathing is the root of all evil. What a statement, right? But conscious deep breathing restores and secures our souls. Obviously, this is a spiritual statement. I have to admit, I am generally very uncomfortable with people using the word evil. It seems like everyone uses it to judge certain things as bad, which is just fear talking. So, even if you're using it in a more enlightened way, you have to go a long way out of your way to be able to use it with regular people and not have it be misunderstood. I tend to just leave it all alone. However, it is true that fear is what creates everything we call evil. It's not what saves us from it. And it shows up first in how we breathe. So don't forget, our reLAXx YouTube playlist collects all of our most effective relief hacks. Ditch all the $20 words without insulting your intelligence or oversimplifying. Anyone can remember how to relax. As far as how we can help with today's lesson, guided meditations make breath work super easy, but they really don't work very well unless they're in person. Your guide needs to be able to see wherever you are at right now to model the right thing at the right time for you. Otherwise, it takes a whole lot of messing around and screwing up to get off the ground, doesn't it? Even a single customized session can make it a lot easier for you to remember the best sequence for you whenever you're stuck. Namaste, my angel. I honor the divine within you.